This week on the Erotic Awakening Podcast, episode 752, Consent with Sir Panda, Flagging/Hanky Code, and Naughty Revival Feedback. Welcome to Erotic Awakening, an exploration of all things erotic. If you are offended by adult topics or prohibited by law, it's recommended you stop listening right now. First, a heartfelt thanks to the amazing patrons of Erotic Awakening, each and every one of you. Your support literally keeps this podcast going and the education happening. A special welcome to our newest supporter, Lindsay. I'm so glad you're here and thanks for your support. I invite each and every one of you to join the others in supporting this work so it can continue. Just visit patreon.com/erotic awakening. Every contribution is super important to the continuation of this education. Hi, everyone. I'm Dawn, and I'm here this week to continue the conversations on power exchange, polyamory, sacred sexuality, and everything in between. Today, we're going to be talking about consent in BDSM with Sir Panda. Let's just jump right into it. So, I don't know if you guys have had this conversation with your family or friends. Maybe you talk about kink, maybe you don't. I do talk about my kink life with one of my sisters. And recently, going through the breakup, she's like, "Oh, great, you can find new hobbies. You don't have to be in this kink community anymore." And I'm like, why? Why would I leave the kink community? And I was talking to some other kinksters and I brought up this conversation and we're all looking at each other confused, going, why would we leave the kink community? If nothing else, the kink community is aware of consent and what consent is. Or we think we know what consent is, but at least there's a theme of that we can lean into. So let's talk a little bit more about consent. Today I've got Sir Panda with us, and he is going to teach us a little bit about consent, how it may or may not be different than what we're thinking of, and just some general ideas to put on our radar. So welcome, Sir Panda.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
So I love this idea. We do talk about consent a lot, or we seem to. I know some people will ask me what I like about this community or this hobby, as my sister puts it. And, consent is the big thing, but we say it's a big thing, and then I don't know that we actually talk about some of the nuances of it. So I'm just going to throw you into the fire. Consent. What is it? Yeah.
Well, today what's on my mind is just a little about what consent is, but also how you respond when something goes wrong.
Nice.
Consent is a bedrock of the community and consider that. And in a relationship or in a scene, we have different forms of consent. We have like the Fry's model from Planned Parenthood. People are probably aware of that. When you're talking about negotiation to establish consent, I kind of have my own called care.
Can you tell us what fries mean? Because I actually saw that for the first time here at a dungeon in Indianapolis. Like last weekend, they had a sign on the wall that said fries. And I'm like, am I under a rock? Because I don't know what that means.
Well, there is the Fry's model of consent introduced by Planned Parenthood that people might be aware of. It stands for F, freely given. It's a voluntary choice. There's no pressure. You're not under the influence of any substance.
Ooh, no coercion. No coercion, no
Right?
pressure. Okay.
Social pressure, right?
Mm-mm.
Conform. R is reversible. You can change your mind and stop, safe word, at any time, even if you consented earlier, even if before you consented to play or kissing someone else. That doesn't mean every time you see them, it's going to be consented to. Informed is everybody knows what they're consenting to. Details like safer sex or what toys to use. He is enthusiastic, not just in an absence of no. It's a direct yes. We probably heard enthusiastic consent. Now, you don't have to be jumping up and down and waving your arms in order to have enthusiastic consent. This can be, yes, it's something I'm interested in. Let's do it. If you have Sometimes you have a gut feeling, you say yes, but you have a gut feeling. And I've always found I've ignored that gut feeling 3 times as a dominant and regretted it every time, because there weren't consent
Hmm.
incidents, but there was something that, you know, just didn't feel right. And
Right.
scenes and interactions didn't go well. Finally, S is specific, which is agreeing to one thing doesn't involve agreeing to others, right? So it's like why we don't up negotiate during a scene or an
Right.
interaction, right? Or, if someone's in subspace or they're so into what they're doing, it's like if you've agreed that you're going to kiss and someone touches you more sexually on the breast or the groin, that's, you haven't consented to that. You've agreed on something specific.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. Because I saw that sign for the first time. And like I said, I might be living under a rock, but I saw that sign in an Indianapolis dungeon. And I went to a newbie meeting with a friend of mine. And she's like, so, you guys that are new, make sure you're following the fries. And I'm like, what the hell is the fries? And I'm looking on the wall and I'm like, oh, fries. Okay.
It's not a value meal. No.
Right. Right. It's not a value meal. So, fries is one of the things that we get to look at, right?
My own take on negotiation specifically, not to get into another acronym, but is care, right? Everybody has capacity, not just they have the capability to consent. And that's where
Hmm.
we're talking about people who are underage, people who are drunk or stoned, but also people that have a clear mind. If you're really angry or you're extremely horny or have a different, right, have a different state of mind. Autonomy, we need to decide what's best for ourselves, our own story, right? And we're formed by our actions as far as who we are. So autonomy has to be respected to make our own choice. Now, and I drill down into reality because a lot of people say, well, we've agreed what to do, right? And here's the risks, right? We've agreed about the risks. The thing is, two people might not actually know the risks,
Right.
right? So, for example, blood choking, some of our extreme play here, my submissive and I attended a class on it, and they talked about, oh, well, there's a chance of death every time you do it. We were interested, but we're not going to do this because we educated ourselves on the reality of it, the actual risks. That scared us away immediately, made our decision clear. And finally, explicitness, meaning it's the boundaries are unambiguous. Everybody's clear with, we have a bright red line here, and mutual definitions like what is sex? What is sexual touch? Right? I've seen and been involved with areas where people don't come to mutual definitions.
Or probably didn't even know that there was a difference in definitions, right? If you know what sexual touch means to you and the other person knows what sexual touch means to them, doesn't mean that you're thinking, oh, it could be different than the other person. So you need to talk about it.
And that could be an honest mistake.
Hmm.
Yeah. And if something happens with consent, there are actually 3 escalating terms that you can use when consent goes wrong. Consent incident, calling it an incident, right, is doesn't assume harm or wrongdoing. It just means something occurred, consent was involved, it went wrong. Does not finger anybody about you're the cause or you're the victim. Something happened. This is a
Hmm.
great start, right? Especially if you are a host or if you are a friend, it's important to start in a neutral place and kind of let the person who feels they were harmed tell their story. Another step
Mm-hmm.
towards violation, that is consent injury. And
Okay.
that's in when I teach about this subject, I talk about injuries because that's when we're talking about someone believes their consent was broken. As a direct result, they experience some kind of harm, whether it be physical, mental, or emotional. A consent violation suggests that consent was not only broken, right, it was violated in some way, which means you as a person, your center, your personhood was violated, was invaded. And it also carries with it the suggestion that the consent incident was intentional or perhaps careless. Someone didn't know what they were doing or someone intentionally caused it. And when we go to violation, that that infers a victim, it infers a villain, and there's a what's called the drama triangle, where you have victim, villain, and hero. To immediately frame someone as a victim does a couple of negative things. For one, it takes away the person who experienced harm, it takes away their autonomy, right? They could spiral into feeling ashamed or trapped, tell themselves that I'm useless, nobody believes me, and that's a trap to fall into. And then the villain role, that's they can get angry or judgmental or defensive. If you say you're the villain, it's all your fault. What were you thinking? Right? It gives no space for a misunderstanding
Mm-hmm.
or any other reason. And then the third part of the triangle is the hero. The hero role places someone who is a friend or even stranger reading an online report, and they step in and say, "Oh, I feel so bad for you. Let me take over. I'll step in and save you. It's going to be fine. Here's what you should do."
Oh my gosh. And the hero role is not always a good thing. I mean, sometimes it is, they can, take it and put it in a package and make sure things are done correctly, blah blah blah. But sometimes that hero is like, nail him, do something to him, make him pay. And they're not listening to the story, or, they're driving that energy to be something bigger than what it needs to be sometimes.
Yes. And they can get self righteous.
Mm-hmm.
They can command, like you just said, they can command someone to react in a certain way, and they can frame it. And we found through studies and reports that the more you frame what happened to someone who was harmed, the more they are likely to experience trauma or negative reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you jump in and say, "Oh, you defined the event, that was totally sexual assault. You defined the event, that was totally SA," right?
Mm-hmm.
Or dictating their feelings. You should absolutely be furious,
Right.
right? Level judgment. It's all their fault. Or judgment say, it's your fault. It wasn't a violation. You can dismiss it, right? Oh, you're lucky, just move on. So these are all are bad ways, according to psychcentral.com, which is where I draw this. Those are all bad ways to communicate with the harmed. What should you say? What is a good way to communicate with someone who's reported a consent incident or injury or violation? Well, first, be there for you. You can say, "I'm here for you. How can I help right now in this moment?" Listen, right? Again, let them tell the story. Make sure to validate them. Say, "I believe in you." Even if you don't believe the story, you can say, "I believe you," for various reasons. It's like, you are telling your truth. I get
Mm-hmm.
this. So I believe you. I'm here to listen. People care. I care about you. I will do my best, right, to be present for you. where you go to help without being a hero is in response. You can offer practical help, ensure their physical and social safety. If you're there when something happens, right? Make sure they are removed from the situation or from people interfering or viewing. Stay calm and patient. Avoid that judgment. Start off with the incident. Something happened. I believe you that something happened. But unless they are seriously initially traumatized and not thinking clearly,
Right.
let them decide the next steps. Just be there for them and offer that practical help. And someone who experienced harm would have control of how things are handled, right? For them, what justice is going to look like, decide here's what I need next, here's what I
Yeah.
have to happen next.
And if nothing else, walk them through breathing and just being grounded and realize this just struck me that when someone comes to me, because I used to own a space, right? And I'm out there presenting and stuff like that. When someone comes to me and says that they've had an injury, there's been an incident, I have to be really careful myself as the person listening. When I feel that visceral physical reaction, that means it's tapping into my triggers. So I'm going to end up responding to them with how I would have wanted to have responded in the past and didn't. We all have to be very, very self-aware of what's going on.
And aware of our own judgment and bias.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own experiences. Maybe this resonates with us or triggers something in us
Right.
because it's similar to what we've experienced, or it's something we fear will happen to us. Or maybe you've seen the person who's being accused of being the person who caused the harm. Played with them and it wasn't quite right, or you've seen their interactions and don't like their interactions with others. Actually, in the United States legal system, often establishing character is not considered evidence that a person committed a particular crime. That just because they've done similar in the past does not mean in this specific instant that they did the same. Now, the BDSM community is quite different, right? Reputation is so important. Have you established a reputation as an ethical person who values consent? So
Right.
that's very important when an incident is reported, because if you haven't established, I mean, assuming this happens in the community and is reported to the community rather than privately, establishing that reputation as someone reliable and respectful is really important to having people, well, respond proportionately, because like bumping into someone at a party is not sexual assault, right?
Right. Right.
Even if they bumped into your boob or something, that's not. Now if they grope you, that's a different,
That's different.
that's a different thing. Copying a feel is the old term
Hmm.
for it. But don't set out to destroy someone because of a small mistake.
And sometimes we've got, when you were talking about copping a feel, sometimes we've got swingers coming into our kink environment. And again, nothing, I will continuously say this, there's nothing right or wrong between the two environments. They're just a little different. And sometimes copping a feel in the swing environment is totally allowed and legit. They come into the kink environment, don't know that. Sometimes people just need to be trained.
Or oriented to the different values of the community.
Hmm.
And again, here we're talking definitions again and levels of consent. Yes, the swinging community can have a different concept of what is consented to when you're getting together than those
Right.
in the ESM community. And they're both acting according to their own values and mores. And yes, they need to be oriented to, oh, you're in this space now, here's how we act.
Here's the differences. Yes. So we have talked a little bit about like on a personal level. about violations and well, the different kinds of things that can happen with consent. But let's say, and I might be doing this soon, let's say I'm holding a house party. Let's say I
Mhm.
got like 10 people coming. Oh, I hope I have a place big enough for 10 people. Let's say I got a place big enough for 10 people to come over. And within those 10 people, something happens. What kind of, I mean, I used to own a dungeon, so I know what I need to do on a big level. And I had three other directors with me. So between the four of us, we kind of balanced each other out and made sure not to become the heroes in a negative sense and balance our biases. But in a house party, I would think that would be a little bit different. What advice do you have for those people?
Yeah, you're right. Organizing a dungeon is different, and you four obviously people knew who to go to
Mm-hmm.
for an incident. And as a host, that's part of setting clear expectations. You
Okay.
really, even if they're friends, do you have, we talked about the different cultures and what consent means. Have you established really rules of conduct or expectations of conduct? Who do you go to? You go to the host, right? To report, say, if something happens, you go to me. Is there somebody who's monitoring what's going on? Even a small party, are you the person responsible for watching for something to go wrong? Which I think is kind of a host responsibility, especially since if something happens on your property,
Ooh.
right, you could be liable for an injury. And do you have a policy? Are there rules regarding, I mean, and these don't have to be written. They can be communicated, but you should individually or when people get together, it's like what play is allowed, where. If you're doing a larger party, you might even have a verbal or written waiver saying you're here under your own risk.
I hate to say it, but it's always a good idea to say you're here under your own risk. That whole liability thing, you would think, oh, we're friends. But man, when something happens,
Yeah, that can really, it can happen even between friends. And what
right.
that does when talking about that, the main thing it does, because it's not always legally enforceable, right? The main thing it does is make people aware and start
Mm.
thinking in that headspace. Okay, it's on me.
Hmm.
And that actually changes behavior.
Nice. Nice, nice. Well, thank you for bringing in your knowledge and sharing with us on such an important topic.
Well, thank you very much. And I would refer people to the Consent Academy
Hmm.
online if they want to dive more into consent and handling and talking about injuries, and psychcentral.com for talking about communicating to those who are harmed or consider themselves victims.
Hmm.
And people can contact me, or I have a website at dsoutreach.com. DS Outreach is my umbrella for my educational classes and approaches. And you can email info@dsoutreach.com to contact me.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, you too.
So, maybe you learned a little bit more about consent and how not jump to conclusions and the wording of consent violation. There are other steps up into that. If you liked what Sir Panda had to say, he is going to be in other places. So April 26th of 26, he is going to be doing Poly Power Exchange, DS Dynamics, and Ethical Non-Monogamy for the Venusian Society. December 5th, he's going to be a panelist. Is it community service or unpaid labor? Hosted by Pragmatically Kinking. If you'd like to share a cup of coffee or conversation, here's where you can find me in person. I'll be at EV in Phoenix on March 21st presenting New Mexico Leather and Kink Fair, Albuquerque on April 11th, presenting and vending. Primal Arts in Baltimore, May 7 through 11, presenting. Twisted Trist, June 11 through 14, presenting. South Dakota in July. Wisconsin for Seek, a Submissive Retreat, October 8 through 11. And Satyricon in Madison in November, and more to come. So I'll have more info to come as the details get ironed out. I have other plans in mind as well, so more things that I am putting together. Keep up with all the places I'm presenting at or vending, my online classes and intensives, book news, discounts, and more via the Erotic Awakening newsletter. And when you sign up, you can get your EA shout out like Phoenix Blue in South Dakota. Head over to eroticawakening.com and subscribe to the newsletter today. Since the last podcast, I have left Delaware. I went south through the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel because of that big snowstorm that was going across the U.S. So I tried to go south and go around it. It didn't work. I still had to go through it. I stayed in Tulsa for a little bit. I am now on my way to New Mexico and Phoenix, where I'll be teaching at EV. So lots of traveling. I'll go down. I think I'm going to go as far as Yuma, maybe even San Diego, and then I have to go back and be in Baltimore by second weekend of May. So many things to do and having a blast while I am doing it. Now, while I was out in Delaware, I was speaking to a family member. And this family member told me that he was thinking of getting another degree, and this one was going to be in something like human sexuality. He knows a little bit about what I do, and it just spoke to my heart. He's really passionate about it. But after talking to him, I realized he doesn't know as much as he thinks he knows. Case in point. I'm like, hey, so you're going to go into this human sexuality thing. Great. I've got some books, I've got contacts, I've got, oh my God, all these things that can help you out if you would like to be helped out. I'm like, I'm going to start off with something simple. And I didn't know this after 25 years. So I'm giving you some something that I didn't even know about. I'm like, I am openly flagging at the moment. And he's like, what? What's flagging? I'm like, so we can start there. Flagging means I am openly presenting that I am looking for something sexually. And he's looking at me and he's like, I I I don't see it. I'm like, well, you wouldn't know what to look for. I didn't know what to look for with the way I'm flagging. Now I know about the Hanky code, right? So I'm in the leather community. I am in the kink community. I know about the hanky code. And that is how it started with, I was just on a leather panel a couple of months ago and they were talking about it there. But it started with the gay man's community and how they would flag with keys. So if their keys were hanging out of their pocket, on the left meant they wanted to top, on the right meant they wanted to bottom. And then it moved to hankies and different colors. I'm like, in the lesbian community, so I was told by two lesbians, they flag with fingernail polish. I've always tried to flag with hankies, but girl stuff doesn't usually have pockets. Where am I supposed to put this hanky so that it's noticed? I've tried tying them around my boots, tying them around my wrist. Some people made hair clips, but no one knows to look for that. Some people made paracord bracelets. I wear an orange one, but not everybody knows that that's flagging. So kind of like the fingernail polish. So I'm wearing teal blue fingernail polish which means nothing on my fingers, but the ring fingers are painted silver. And silver, actually silver lame, means star fucker. So on the left hand, I'm willing to fuck a star, and on the right hand, I'm a star that wants to be fucked. How's that for flagging? And no one's going to know out in the public. No one has a clue, except that I have different colored fingernails. But if I was in the lesbian community, that could be seen as flagging. When I am in the kink community, I can still have, okay, first I want to say I did this fingernail polish for intrigue and it worked. Both sides. Yay! Anyway, when I'm in the kink community, though, I usually flag with hankies. I try. I try to tie them to my boots, tie it to my wrist. If I have jeans on and a back pocket, I'll put it in a back pocket. Well, what's funny is when I told this family member about the hankies, he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, the hankies." I'm like, "You go to gay bars, don't you see guys with hankies?" He's like, "Yes." And I had no clue what that means. I'm like, "Well, let me inform you. First, don't assume you know what the hanky means. Some of them are pretty generic. Some of them you may need to ask the person what it means to them." And I say that because let's say it's a black hanky. Well, that usually means heavy BDSM, heavy S&M. Gray usually means rope. Again, silver lame, star fucker. Orange. I've always known orange is anything, anytime, anywhere. My caveat is, but not necessarily with anyone. Left and right means different things. Left means topping, right means bottoming. That's usually universal. With orange, they tried to make the hanky code to where left means we'll do anything, right means not looking. And my thing has always been, why would you even wear a hanky if you're not looking? Why is that color different than any other color in the list? So for me, orange on the left, anything, anytime, anywhere as a top. On the right, anything, anytime, anything, anywhere, anytime as a bottom. Now, I just looked up a hanky code, and one of them actually said something different for orange. On the left means looking to lead. On the right means open to suggestion. I kind of like that one too. Now, don't get orange confused with coral. Kind of close in color. Coral is about toes. And maybe you do want to get them mixed up. Maybe your anything, anytime, anywhere is about toes. All right. Tan. Tan is cigar play. Beige is rimming. Rimming, if you don't know what rimming is, licking the butthole. So cigar play versus licking the butthole. You might not want to get those colors confused, or maybe you do. So, if nothing else, if you see somebody flagging, be polite and ask what it means to them. I'll be covering the hanky code during my class in Phoenix this Saturday because the class is about being an introvert in the lifestyle. So this is a way of starting conversation. Oh my gosh. And then Naughty Revival, once again, in my topics for the podcast, because weeks and weeks and weeks ago, I got a email from Naughty Revival saying, "Here's your presenter feedback forms from the attendees." And I'm like, "Oh, whoa, no, I don't want to read those." And my friend that I was staying with is like, "Why wouldn't you want to read those?" I'm like, "Mm-mm. One negative comment can have me tail spinning." That was the first event that I taught that was huge that I taught on my own. And I'm like, "Mm-mm, nope. I know I did a fantastic job. I know I rocked, and I know I rocked, and I'm going to leave it at that. Don't need to know anything else." Well, I was going through something a couple of days ago, and I realized it was still in my inbox, and I still hadn't read it. So what I was going to do, per the suggestion of a friend, was to take that document, put it in chat, and tell it to tell me just the positive stuff. There's always someone that feels like they need to offer negative advice, not knowing that we don't make money doing this. This is us giving back to the community. Why be negative? Ugh. Anyway, so as I'm prepping that doc to put it into chat, I started seeing the positive stuff. And I'm like, ah, shit, I'm going to go ahead and read it. I read it, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. I cried. I cried. So much positive stuff in there. So much positive. 100% positive. And it reminded me why I do this and that I do have great knowledge and tools and tips to offer, and I know how to present in a class. I mean, I've been doing this for what, 27 years, something like that. Anyway, so thank you guys that actually did presenter feedback forms. Thank you for all the positive stuff. And once again, kudos to Naughty Revival. Love that event. All right, I'm going to wrap this up. I need to get on the road to New Mexico and to Phoenix. So currently, I can be found at Dawn_Awakening or Erotic_Awakening on Fetlife, Erotic Awakening on Instagram, EA Podcast Dawn on TikTok, or just email me at dawn@eroticawakening.com. Be a part of the Erotic Awakening podcast community. You can become a patron of the show and get early access to the podcast, a free copy of the audiobook Polyamory Toolkit, free ebooks, discounts on monthly Zoom classes, member-only Discord Not Safe for Work channel, and more. Find all the goodies at patreon.com/Erotic Awakening today. And help others find the show. Give us high ratings wherever you listen to the podcast, and most importantly, tell your friends. Join the conversation with other listeners. Use the links from the Erotic Awakening website for our interactive Discord channel that is open to all listeners. Until next time, may your journey be filled with passion, joy, and a bit of naughtiness. Bye, everyone.